wants us to have trust in Him, why does He make us go out and put effort to work for a living? Right? Just have trust in Hashem, and Hashem will give you a money tree in your backyard.
Even if you don't work.
Even if you don't work, why didn't Hashem make the world like that?
Sure.
What?
You're sure about that?
I'm positive that Hashem. Oh, we're going to see. There are certain people that He did make a money tree for. We're going to see at the end.
I don't know about that.
We'll see.
Okay.
But for most of us normal folks, there's no money tree in the backyard. We have to go out and make a living. So there were two reasons why Hashem did this. The first reason we discussed last week, so just summarize that, we're not going to go back into it. The first reason is that we're in this world to overcome challenges, to come close to Hashem. So Hashem wants to see, He gives us challenges and gives us tests when we make a living. Are we going to do it according to the Torah or not according to the Torah? Are we going to steal in order to make a living, which Hashem doesn't want us to do? Or are we going to live honestly to make a Kiddush Hashem? Right? Are we going to follow the Torah when we make a living? That's why, one reason why Hashem makes us make a living, because this world is a test. This world is a test because we can only come close to Hashem by overcoming challenges. If Hashem just gave us everything, we couldn't earn anything in order to come close to Hashem. Right? The angels are close to Hashem, but they can't get any closer because they don't have any challenges. It's so clear to them who God is that they don't even think about doing a sin. Only human beings, where we have a Yetzer Hara, an evil inclination, a physical body, which challenges us to not follow the will of Hashem, can we overcome. And when we overcome that, that can bring us even closer to Hashem than the angels. That was the first reason we discussed last week. Sheni, the second reason, page 94, if a person would not have to work and go after his food in order to make a living, he would rebel. He would run after sins. What would a person do if he didn't have to work for a living? He would have free time all the time. How would a normal person use his free time? He would do sins. He would sin. That's what he would do. He wouldn't recognize everything to be thankful to Hashem for. A person that wouldn't have to sin would become very arrogant, and he wouldn't recognize Hashem. He would forget Hashem and just sin all day. He would do averos. Right? We have to thank Hashem for everything. We serve Hashem. He discusses earlier in the Sefer that one of the main reasons that we serve Hashem is because of all that He's done for us. Just the fact that we exist, that we've been breathing, that we have a place to live, we have food. All of these things and an infinite amount of other things requires us to serve Hashem and requires us to thank Him. If a person didn't have to work for a living, then we would rebel. We wouldn't thank Hashem. We would just be arrogant. What happens when a person has everything? I don't know if you know this, but there's many wealthy people that, or especially those that are born into wealth, obviously not every time, but it's a very big temptation to be arrogant, to feel everything's coming to you, that you don't have to do anything for anybody, and that you're the most important thing in the world. As it says, V'haya kinor v'navel, there was a kinor, a harp, a lyre, not a liar, but a lyre. Tov v'chalol v'yayin mishteyem v'espal Hashem lo yabitu ma'asedav lo ra'u. There were harp and lyre and drum and flute and wine at their drinking parties. And they would not contemplate the deed of Hashem and would not look at His handiwork. V'amar, and it says, V'yishmen Yeshurun, the Jewish people became fat, V'yibat, they rebelled, Shamanta avisa, Kasisa v'yitosh Elokai osohu. Oh, what? Oh, lo aso, sorry. Elokai, what is it? Okay, right. When the Jewish people became fat, they kicked. He became fat, thick, corpulent. All different ways of saying fat. I'm sure there's different meanings to each one. And he deserted God, his maker. The sages say, Yafet Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. That Talmud Torah, studying Torah, is good with work. Because when you do both of them, you forget sin. And any Torah that doesn't have work with it, you're eventually going to abandon the Torah and just do sins. All the more so, someone who doesn't do either, doesn't learn Torah or work, doesn't do any of them, he's going to rebel against Hashem. Okay. Now, another reason why, it's really part of the same reason, why it's not good to have too much free time. If a person had all this free time, most people, what they would do is, like we said, become arrogant, and some people would spend their time thinking about things they shouldn't think about. Like what? There are certain questions that as human beings, we don't have the capability to answer. We don't have the capability to answer what existed before the world, or to think about those things, or what's going to be when the world ends. These things are beyond us. But a person that doesn't have to earn his own livelihood, as we said, he becomes arrogant, and he starts thinking and postulating, this is how it happens, this and this, and he starts saying things about God that are ridiculous, and the person becomes a balgaiva. Like the wise one says, Solomon, Gam es ha'olam nasam belibam mibli asher lo yimtza ha'adam es ha'maisa asher asa elokim erosh ve'ad sof. He has also put preoccupation with the world into their minds so that man should not find what God has done from beginning to end. I mean, you find this, there's a reason for a lot of famous sayings. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. People tend to express their opinions now about things that they have no clue about. Part of being a human being is to recognize that Hashem created us. We're very lofty individuals, but He created us in a certain way that certain things are just beyond our comprehension. There are certain things that exist in the spiritual world that it's impossible for a created being to understand. And I like to give the parable of, I asked my students this the other day, if someone would come into the classroom totally blind from birth, and he would ask you, could you do me a favor? I've never seen color in my life. Can you please explain to me the difference between red and blue? You can't do it. There's no frame of reference. You can't say, blue's like the sky. Well, he's never seen the sky. He's blind. The same thing for us. When it comes to certain spiritual matters, we don't have the ability. We're blind. We don't have the ability to understand them. So the person who doesn't have to work for a living, he's going to become arrogant and start thinking about things that he has no business thinking about. Now, let's just do one more paragraph. That was a regular person. What if a person becomes very successful in the service of Hashem? He chooses to live a life of fearing Hashem. He's confident in the Torah and worldly matters. He doesn't do averos. He stays away from that. He desires to have good character traits. Such a person, if he has all this free time, he's not going to rebel against Hashem. He's a holy person that just wants to serve Hashem. He's not just going to waste his time with leisure activities. He won't be taken by the enchantments of this world. What Hashem does for such a person is He takes away the requirement to put in his effort to work for a living. Such a person, he'll have the money tree. Hashem will provide through His bitachon, since he's such a holy person on this lofty level. He has trust in Hashem. Hashem's going to provide for him without all of the hard work. Because what were the two reasons that Hashem makes us work? One is because He's trying to test us. Two is because we might rebel against Hashem. But this person who is very holy, he doesn't have those two things. He passed the test already because he's such a holy individual. And two, his free time is not going to cause him to rebel against Hashem. We see that he's not like that. It says, so Hashem is going to give him what he needs, such a person. And with that, I just want to finish by reading this Rambam. It's a famous Rambam, very powerful Rambam. To the end of Zroim. He says like this, he talks about the Shevet Levi. The Kohanim and the Leviim, in the times of the temple, they didn't have a portion in the land of Israel to support themselves, but the Jewish people supported them. Hashem supported them because they spent their lives dedicated to the service of Hashem. So the Rambam writes, "V'lo Shevet Levi Bilvad," not only the tribe of Levi alone, like Darren. Ela kol ish v'ish. He doesn't say Darren. I asked that. Ela kol ish v'ish. Mikol boy olam. Every human being that comes into the world, Asher nidva ruchu, who becomes inspired also. V'hevinu midaito lahavdo la'amad l'knei Hashem l'shar so lahavdo. He decides that he wants to be such a person that separates himself from the rest of the people to serve Hashem. L'das Hashem, to know Hashem. V'halach yashar, and he goes in the straight path. K'moshe aso elokim uparik me'al tzavaro ol cheshbonos, and he takes away from himself the burden of cheshbonos, of having to find a living. Harabim asher bikshu b'nei adam. Harezin is kadosh kadosh kadosh. From such a person who's come sanctified to Hashem, Hashem chalko, Hashem will be his portion v'nachlaso la'olam la'ol me'olam, forever. V'yiskalo ba'olam hazeh, he will merit in this world zavar hamaspiklo, what he needs. Moshe zachal kohanim l'leviim. Just like Hashem provided for the kohanim and the leviim, so too Hashem will provide for this person that decides he's going to live a life dedicated to service of Hashem. Hari David ol v'shalom omer Hashem minas chalki v'kosi ata tomech gorali. So we see here again, just to summarize, there are two reasons that Hashem made the world in a way, even though we're supposed to recognize that all of our sustenance comes from God. Nevertheless, He wants us to put in the effort to make our own livelihoods. One reason is because life is a test. He wants to see if we're going to earn our livelihoods in the way of the Torah, according to His will. And two, just because if most human beings, if they have a lot of free time, are going to get themselves into trouble, and they're going to become arrogant. He doesn't want that to happen to us. Arrogance is a very bad thing in Judaism. However, there are certain people that have proven themselves that they're very holy, that Hashem provides for them even without them putting in that much effort. And we're going to see that it's a whole continuum. It doesn't have to be like you work for a living and Hashem doesn't provide for you, or you don't do anything and Hashem provides everything for you. You can have a million levels depending on a person's level of trust in Hashem. That's how He's going to provide for him. And then next week we're going to talk about how can we see wicked people that aren't doing what Hashem wants and they still get provided for. All right, the end.